for Technologies, and today we're continuing our turbocharge training on the RetirementView software. Today's module is about Social Security, how to model it in the software, different little nuances and aspects and tips and tricks. So let's just go through that. I'm going to get rid of this message because otherwise it will pop up the entire time. It always shows up when we do the GoToWebinar. All right, let's go to the next. Sorry. All right, next slide. All right, there we go. Here's our agenda, picture of the day, quick overview. Then we're going to talk about the basics of Social Security, modeling it in the program, and any questions you have. All right, here's our pick of the day. Found this on the internet. It's a poster from the 1930s, and if you read through there, more security for the American family, offers greater old age insurance protection of people now nearing retirement age. So whatever your political leanings, I just thought the poster was interesting. To me, it has a little bit of a socialistic feel to it, but hey, that's just me. Let's go to the overview of the software. Just a reminder, I keep drumming these points because it's really what makes our software different. Focus on keep it simple. You're building a visual picture. You're not focused on reams of spreadsheets, and you're focused on having real conversations about their live retirement picture and their goals. And you're not going to make it too complicated. So I keep bringing that up because I just want to remind you about our focus and that it's just an estimator. Okay, the basics. Here's some basic things. This isn't necessarily the basics of calculating Social Security and all the algorithms. Those are too complicated, but just some basic thoughts, if you will. First of all, everyone gets a letter from the SSA with an estimate of their benefits, so try to get a copy of that and use that estimate first if you can get it. That'll be more accurate because it's based on their actual earnings history. If you can't get a copy of the letter, or it's a first meeting and you don't have any documents or they can't find it, then my second suggestion is use an estimate based on your own knowledge. If you have knowledge of Social Security, a lot of advisors I talk to have met with a lot of clients about their financial picture, and they have a feel for some approximation based on their client's income, what kind of Social Security they'll get. Always be conservative. Or you can use a built-in estimate inside the software. We'll talk about that shortly. There's 3 types of estimates in our software, okay? Now, first of all, there is just the SSA estimate from their letter, and I'll show you how to enter that. Second, estimate on your own based on your knowledge. This is what we just talked about. I'm just trying to make it in bullet point. Use the built-in estimate inside the program. One thing about the built-in estimate, it's designed to match the quick calc on SSA.gov. We don't have their actual earnings history, so we're generating the estimate from the job income, their current age, the retirement age, when they're going to start taking the benefit, and there's a number of assumptions made in that algorithm. It's a very complicated algorithm to do a Social Security estimate, and we had an actuarial firm help us build that tool, and it was reviewed by them, and we update it every year. So that's where the built-in estimate comes from. Probably should have done a slide on that. Okay, we're going to use an SSA estimate from the client. You're going to enter it on the Client tab at the bottom, and you're going to enter the estimate into the current annual value, and remember that is an annual amount. And then if you want to adjust the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, that's under the settings menu, Social Security. And I'm going to show you all this right after I go through it. I'm just going to tell you what I'm going to do, then show you exactly this. and then it shows up as royal blue on the income graph. So it's not rocket science. Let me go over to the software. All right, here we are in the software, and let's go ahead and open a file. Let's see. Actually, let me see if I have a sample file real quick that I can use. Yeah, Sam and Sally sample, a basic plan. I'm just going to open that. I'm going to change this to make them a little younger, though. Let's just do that for right now. All right, so now we're in the software. Here's a basic plan. We've already gone over that. So right here on Sam's tab at the bottom, there's an estimate that's entered. So you got his SSA letter, and it says $18,564. So you enter there as an annual amount. And I think the letters give you a monthly amount. I can't remember. I don't have one in front of me. I should have pulled one out before I got onto the training here. But if it does give a monthly amount, obviously you got to multiply by 12 and put that in here. Start age. The letter shows you, if it starts at 65, it's this amount. If it starts at 66, this amount, 67. So it shows you a couple of amounts. So just make sure you match the start age to whatever the letter says. So, you can change the start age. Stop age defaults to 100 just to run to the end of the plan. And you can usually leave that alone unless you want to model that one of the spouses have died, and we're going to get to that later. All right, so you can enter the benefit here from the letter. Here's the settings menu up here, and that's where I was talking about the Social Security menu item. Click on that. You come to this screen, Social Security settings. The second section here is for entering your own estimated benefit, in which case you can enter a COLA. So the COLA for 2014 was announced as 1.5%, so we can use that if we want. Torrid, we keep a list on a spreadsheet of the last 20 years of cost of living adjustments, and that 20-year average is 2.44%. So in the last few years, the COLAs have been much lower, I think because of pressure of the running out of the money in the Social Security fund. I think they've lowered it. Inflation also has been a little bit lower than it was in the 80s, for example. Okay, so there we go. We got 1.5% on the cost of living adjustment. I believe I have a benefit on here for the wife as well. That's where that's coming from. But that shows you just how to enter it. So let's go back to our slide. We're just going to keep going back and forth. So that's an SSA estimate from the letter. Or you could enter your own estimate. It's the same process. You just, if you have knowledge, hey, a person of this income that I saw last week, it's got their letter, and you can thumbnail it. It's better than not entering anything. Just be conservative. I wouldn't overestimate what they're going to get from Social Security. And so it's the same process. You're just going to enter it under the current annual value. Oops. Sorry about that. I forgot to go backwards. Okay. Yeah, just here under annual amount. I'm going to put it right there. Okay. So let's say for whatever reason, their income is $65,000 a year and he's nearing retirement, and from your experience, oh, you know what, I don't think they're going to get more than $14,000. Okay, go ahead and enter that. All right, so our next option is the built-in estimate. Let's talk about that. This is where we've entered, we've built code that models the SSA.gov quick calc. The other estimates require you to enter the earnings history, and you literally have to enter, okay, what'd you make, 30 years ago, 29 years ago, 28 years ago. It's very complicated. So to use a built-in estimate, we're going to click on Settings, Social Security. That's where we set our COLA. But in this case, in the top section, which I'm going to show you right now, that's for the built-in estimate. So all you got to do is click a checkbox, and that's it. It'll do the estimate for you. But if you do this, the COLA in the second section is ignored. We built some assumptions into the estimate, and the reason for that mainly is that we don't want somebody coming back on us and saying, oh, your estimate was way too high, and the reason it was high is because they entered a 4% COLA. Okay, so we don't want to be liable for something like that. So we hard code what we think is a reasonable 20-year average. Okay, and then all you do is click OK, and it'll generate the COLA. So let's see how that works. All right, in this case, we just go under Settings, Social Security, and all we do is click this box. Now, you see here you can scale back the built-in estimate. In my experience, the built-in estimate tends to be higher than the actual estimates from the SSA letter. And I feel like that's probably because in the early years of someone's working career, the amounts of job income that are reported are much lower than what we estimate. Because our estimate uses a linear percent factor to go back in time. So if your job income today is $65,000 in the case of Sam, and he's 58 today, well, we got to go back in time and try and go back to when he was 30 and 25, etc. And we just use a factor, and I don't know the exact number. It's 6%. I don't know what the number is. Some percentage, and that's a linear building of their income in the past. And in reality, you might make very little when you start out for several years, and it bumps up very little. So I'm not, it's just different. It's just not the actual number. So if you feel like it's too high, or you're just always lean on the conservative side, you can always scale it back. But it is based on an actual estimate. So when you do that, you'll see now that I can't edit the annual amount on Sam's Social Security. If I click on Sally, same deal. I can't edit what her number is. I can change the start age, so let's start hers at 70. Oops. Let's see, okay, we can start hers at 70, so she got a higher benefit, but she waited. All right, so that's how you use the built-in estimate. If you have any questions, be sure to put them in on the chat box, okay? All right, let's go back to our slideshow. Look over my shoulder. Okay, see this in action in the actual software. All right, so I've already done that. I did that after each method. I thought it flowed a little better. We could have waited and done it right here. Let's go on to some advanced stuff. That's not too advanced. I just want to share some of the things that come up the most often. When one person of a couple dies, two people are married, one of them dies, the higher benefit generally continues, and the lower benefit usually stops. Okay, that's just a general rule. There's a lot of legal rules and exceptions and stuff to all these Social Security things, and I'm not getting into that, but just as a general rule, that's one to keep in mind. So if you do want to model the way somebody dies in the program, and what you do is you go over here, and let's say Sam dies. He's got a $15,000 benefit. His wife has an $18,000 benefit. Of course, hers is later. So you know what? If Sam dies, we may want to stop his benefit. Let's say he dies at age 80. So I'm going to stop his benefit. I just click over on something else. So now we got rid of his, and Sally's continues. It could be the other way around. It could be that Sally's is smaller, and you're going to stop hers instead of Sam's. So that's a simple way to model that. Okay. Another general rule, again, is not exact science because there's different exceptions. There's also different types of Social Security. I'm mainly talking about Social Security retirement benefits. Obviously, there's Social Security disability, there's survivor benefits, there's different types of benefits. Mainly talking about retirement benefits. A non-working spouse can get approximately half the benefits of the working spouse as their own benefit. Of course, it's tied to their age and when they take the benefit. If they take it early, before their full benefit age, then they're going to get less money. That applies whether they're on their own work record or on their spouse's work record. But that's just a general rule of thumb. Some people didn't even know that if your spouse is a homemaker, never works a day in their life, but the other spouse works and works a full career and pays into Social Security, the spouse can also get a benefit. Okay, that's probably why our Social Security system's going bankrupt, because there you've got substantial benefits to someone who never paid into it. All right, how is it taxed? Okay, these bullets are kind of out of order. I don't know how that happened. But it's taxed on a graduated level. So there's a certain amount. I didn't put up the ranges. That's more technical than I wanted to get into. I just wanted to point out just at a high level that the first level is not taxed. So it varies between whether you're single or married. And so there's a threshold. And when you hit that, below that level, 0% tax, and there's an area where it's 50% tax, and then when you go over the high end of the threshold, anything above that amount is taxed, 85% taxed. I should have used the word taxable. That's kind of a typo there. It's 85% taxable, anything over that, so it'll just include it in your income. Our software does this calculation for you, and this is where I wanted to start actually, but it's okay to talk about it now. This is called the provisional income calculation, and it's found in publication 915 if you want to read about it. If you don't know anything about Social Security or the taxation of it, that document tells you a fair amount about it, at least gives you, some working knowledge. I'm sure there's plenty of other resources out there, but that's right to the source, the IRS.gov, publication 915. All right. In our program, in the RetirementView, the program estimates the taxes on the Social Security, pulls those out, and uses the after-tax estimated amount in the retirement income picture. Okay? So when you're looking at, where they're going to red, they're out of money, all that, the graph, it's an after-tax picture. Remember, this is just an estimate. And also you can see the tax calculation for Social Security on the spreadsheet. I'll show you that in just a second. All right, I'm not going to get into the timing rules. Let's go ahead and go back into the program now. And I'm going to show you under the spreadsheet, and we scroll over. All right, going way over here. All right, the blue columns are the Social Security, okay? So right in here where we start the Social Security age 66 for Sam, it looks at their target income and it runs the provisional income calculation, and the software is estimating that they're in the 85% bracket. So that's the maximum percent is taxable. It doesn't mean that all of their Social Security, I'm sorry, it doesn't mean that 85% of their Social Security is taxable. It just means they fall into that threshold. Some of the Social Security is 0% taxable, i.e. not taxed. So then we have our estimate that the program generates, in this case $3,749. Then we have an after-tax amount, and then that's the amount that gets put into the income graph. So I click on the income graph, and we go over here to the first year right here, and notice in the blue box up here, $11,591, so that matches what was on the spreadsheet. Any questions about that? Alrighty. Alright, let's talk about the timing rules. There's tons of software out there to do what's now been called, Social Security Maximization, Social Security Timing, Social Security Decision Making. Those aren't necessarily names of softwares, although they might be. I don't know all the names of them. But the idea is that you can do different techniques to maximize your benefits. And again, for some reason, these bullets are coming up in the wrong order, so I'm going to just bring them all up real quick. File and suspend, one does a restricted application. There's all these techniques, like the spouse, the main breadwinner files but immediately suspends it, but that allows the spouse to apply to receive her spousal benefit, and then after a few years she collects her benefit on her own work record. So there's all different types of techniques, and they calculate all the different combinations to see which one will max out your benefits. So there's other software programs that do those calculations. Now if you use those tools, you can enter the income streams into our program. Alright, we're going to be making some changes to make it even easier, but you can enter it. The two things you want to look at are the stop age and cash infusion, so let's go over to that. Okay, now in this case we use the built-in estimate. So if you're doing all these rules and stuff, you're probably not going to use the estimate. So I'm going to turn that off. Alright, so we got that turned off. And there's a couple of ways. Let's see, why did the software go away? Hold on. Bring it back up. Okay. So now we don't have a benefit for Sam. Let's go ahead in here and put in some numbers. Okay, I put in the, I do not know why that something's happening on my computer. Let's try this again. Let's say he's getting 15,000. All right, so for some reason, when I hit tab, it's trying to switch back over to my PowerPoint. Never seen that happen before. All right, so there's a couple of things. Let's say that you're doing some of these techniques. One option is to not use these at all. Okay, you could go in here under Sam and Sally and zero this out. Okay, so we're taking away their Social Security on the front. Then we're going to use cash infusions. Okay, and then we do, Sam's, let's see, Sam's benefit period 1, Sally's benefit period 1, Sally's benefit see if I can spell. Okay, so like maybe Sam's benefit, he may file and suspend, and he's just going to wait till age 67, and he's going to run his benefit at the max at that point. And again, I'm just going to make this up. So he's getting 15,000. You're going to have to enter your COLA in here. So let's say I put in 2.4. Now in this case, you're going to have to estimate your taxes. That's the only downside in our program right now, is that you may have to just enter some estimate, 10%, 20%, something like that. And then go back over here for each of these other periods. So let's say Sally gets some kind of reduced spousal benefit, and she wants to file early to get that. And she's going to do that for I don't know, 5 years. Still going to want to put your COLAs on there. And then maybe after that, she's going to get a benefit based on her work record. Let's say it's $16,000. And that starts at age 67. And then that goes for the duration. So it only took 3 lines to do that. And again, I'm just making up the tax rate. If you want to eyeball the tax rate, you can maybe put in some general amount of benefits in the main program and eyeball what the program's estimating, and then come back in here and put the percent. That's one option. Once these amounts are received, they'll be used as income, so I don't think it'll matter. I don't think it's going to go into the investment buckets, but it is taxable in character at that point. It doesn't go into your qualified plans, so that's why I set that to taxable. Add extra cash infusion to this investment bucket. So if we get $15,000 at age 67 for Sam's benefit and it's not used, then it'll get put into the taxable investments. I'm going to add this into the plan. And my computer's a little slow because I go to webinar. Now, here's what the change is, in that instead of blue Social Security, if you enter on cash infusion, it shows up as white other income. We may change this. We may do some little programming magic so that it shows up as blue, or you designate it Social Security or something. But mathematically, if you're doing, there's 3, 4, 5 different periods, starts and the stops, and you're using all these complicated Social Security strategies, then you can use cash infusions. So that's the way, as long as you mathematically model it pretty close, it's part of your estimate. It works pretty good. Now, your other option would be to, you could model Sam's stuff here, since and let's forget about the fact we were estimating that he dies at age 80. Let's say Sam gets $15,000 and it goes to age 100 and it's subject to the cost of living adjustment. And then remember, we had one period where Sally got $8,000 and another where she got $16,000. So one option would be to just enter her full Social Security starting at 67. So we're going to model the biggest period. Don't know why it's doing that. That's bizarre. Okay. So we model her biggest period on the front screen so it shows up as blue, but then we go under cash infusions and we just model the smallest one, the shortest one, which is this little 5-year period where she gets $8,000. We'll just model that with a cash infusion. And when we do that, then we'll get a bunch of blue for Social Security, and then we're just showing a little bit of white for her other Social Security. Now note we started the retirement period at 65, so that's 62. A couple of these years are prior to her true retirement. Let's change this to 62, and we should see 5 years. Alrighty. There we go. For some reason the program's doing something weird. Okay, so now the reason, actually, here's another effect. When you have 2 spouses that retire at different times, it throws in the job income into the picture. So that wasn't not my intention, but that's why under other income it shows like $52,000 because Sam is making some money, and so it calculates after-tax amount, then adds the Social Security. So that's why that does that. If we change Sam's retirement age to 62, then it would get rid of that. All right, does everyone understand that? Just want to make sure. Any questions about that? No questions. Okay. Go back to our slideshow. I'm not sure. I think it ended. Oh, there it is. That's all I had. So I just wanted to show you the basics of Social Security. You know, you probably didn't need this whole webinar training just to figure all that out. If you fire up the program and you see the Social Security input and you enter a dollar value, it shows up. So it's pretty easy to learn our program. These trainings are meant to give you more background, tips and tricks, give you some more educational understanding of what we're doing in the program, and just be able to answer any questions that come up. So, all right, are there any questions? Any questions at all? Okay, here's a question about the provisional income calculation. Someone was asking what the thresholds are for the 0% taxation. And I admit I don't know those off the top of my head. But if you go get the publication 915, it tells you what the thresholds are. And again, I don't remember the exact thresholds, but let's say, you know, for an individual, it's like 22,000 and under, and then at 32,000, they're phased out, and then anything above that, 85%. And again, the thresholds are for the provisional income, so there's a specific calculation. So it's not just your entire income. You actually don't include half of your Social Security income when you're calculating what, quote, provisional income is. And there's other rules in there about tax-free bond income and railroad benefits and things of that nature. And not all of those things are calculated in our program. We just did the best we could to come up with a reasonable estimate. And it's hard to program all these different exceptions, like we don't have a place to enter railroad benefits, for example. All right, any other questions? One thing that comes up sometimes is people ask, well, you know, what if Social Security goes bankrupt and then no one gets any benefits? Well, don't know what to tell you there, other than if your client is paranoid in that way, you could show them a retirement picture where you don't use any Social Security, or, you know, in 15 years it's bankrupt, or 20 years it's bankrupt. So set the stop age to whatever age that is and see if they can plan around that. That's only going to benefit you as an advisor, because they're going to run out of money a lot sooner if they don't believe it'll be around. So that's a nice thing about the retirement view. Whatever the client brings up, you can pretty much model some estimate of what they're saying. Okay, that's about all we have for today. Hope this was useful. And we'll talk to you again next time. It's Tim Turner, Torrid Technologies, signing off. We'll talk to you again next time. See ya.